This is Brachos Taf Hey in the Yerushalmi Yomi. And starting right at the top of the Amud, Hey Amud Aleph. Zel Shom Mispal Tzor Chash Vosis Raglov. Person who's standing and davening has to hold his legs together. Shein Amoraim. Two Amoraim argue about the reason. Rabbi Levi, Rabbi Simon. Chad Amar Kamalachim. One says like a Malachim. We know that reason. That's well known. The other one is not so well known. Chad Amar Kohanim. One says like the Kohanim. Man Amar Kohanim. What does it mean like Kohanim? Lo taleh ma'alos mizbechi. You should not go up on steps up to my mizbech, and rather there was a ramp in the base of Mikdash, and Yerushalmi infers that the ramp was in order that you shouldn't take wide steps, but rather Akev b'tzad Goda v'Goda b'tzad Akev. Your heel adjacent to your toe, and your toe adjacent to you. In other words, you would kind of shuffle up the ramp. The Radah says here seems to contradict the Bavli and Yuma. Bavli is not bringing down this reason, but it seems to contradict Bavli and Yuma, which says he used to run up the ramp, at least at first, before there was some violence involved, to see who would be able to bring the carbon. So it's a little bit difficult, this concept of running up the the Kohanim having their legs together, but that is what the Gemara. It's one side. One reason Gemara is giving. Another opinion which holds that the Malachim holds Raglei and Regel Yeshara. They have a straight leg, even though it says Ragleihem. Their legs Regel Yeshara. It's one leg, meaning that their two legs look like one. Rabbi Chanina ben Andur Rabbi Shem Rabbi Shmuel Bar Sutar says Hamalachim ein lo kfitzim. Malachim not have springs. On Hebrew, kfitz is a spring. Here, Moshe says it means that they don't have joints in order to bend their legs, and some say that it means that they don't have knees, which is basically the same thing. If you don't have joints, you don't have knees. So they it's probably has to do with what we say about the malachim, that they're oimdim, whereas people are mahalchim. Malachim are static, as people are constantly going michayil el chayil. My time on in the Yerushalmi very often doesn't mean what's the reason so much as from which pasuk do I see this. So the Yerushalmi says the pasuk in which we see it is krafta achad min kamaya kayama, and this pasuk is where it's probably read based on Torah Yerushalmi is kravas achad min kamaya v'yatziva. So Daniel says he went to one of those who were standing straight, Yatziv, and I asked him to follow the question, whatever it had to do with that nevuah there, or the chazoin, and from this we see that they stand kind of ramrod straight. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. It's an interesting question. Rabbi Huna is strange usage because he lived in Bavel, and we know in the Bible is Rav Huna. So it could be that it actually did say Nishi Rav Huna. We know the Gersos and the Yerushalmi are sometimes messed up. So Rav Huna, or Rabbi Huna, as it says here, Zeshwas Kohen Bebeis HaKnesses, the person who sees the Kohen in shul when they're duchening, B'bracha Rishona Tzorech Lomar Baruch Es Hashem Malachav. The first bracha he says the pasuk Baruch Hu Hashem Malachav, and the second was the Bishnia. The second pasuk he says Baruch Hashem Kol Tzvav, Malachav his angels, Tzvav his hosts. B'shlishi Baruch Hashem Kol Masav, and he all of his creatures. The Musaf, that is the Duchen in Eretz Yisrael, of course, and sorry, Chutz Laretz, Duchen in Chakras and Musaf. So Baruch Rishon Tzolom Hashem Maus Nei Baruch Hu Hashem Kol Avdei Hashem Only Beis Hashem Balelos, as we say by the first bracha. The Bishnia, the second pasuk we know is called B'Sui Dechem Kodesh. So the first one is about the blessing, all the Avdei Hashem blessing Hashem. Second one is lifting up our hands in Kedusha, which of course has to do with Nesilas Kapayim. B'Shlishi Zirech Hashem Mitzion. And the third time you say Yivarechecha Hashem Mitzion. V'imayu arba, if they are four, which means, as Moshe points out, that there are sometimes they do it 4 times a day, such as in Yom Kippur, was Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, and Elah. So then, Chazet Tlisa Bekarmesa, the third time you say the same thing you said in the morning, and the fourth time you say the same thing you said by Musaf. Omar Rabbi Chatzna. It's interesting. The name of the Basunin is close. It gives the name of Chanona. Mayelas HaShachar Shior HaMizrach. From the time of Mayelas HaShachar, which is a very obscure term, what exactly it means. From the time of Mayelas HaShachar Ad Shior HaMizrach, until the eastern sky becomes illuminated, meaning that Mayelas HaShachar is sometime before the illumination of the eastern sky. Whenever that is, until the eastern sky is illuminated, well before sunrise. Adam Mahalach Arbas Milim. You can go 4 mil. So Miyishior HaMizrach, from the time that the eastern sky illuminates, Ad HaNetz Chama until sunrise is another Arba Milim. It's the amount of time it takes to work 4 mil. So the clearly Ayelas HaShachar is before dawn. It's sometimes almost in the middle of the night. So they have the Ayelas HaShachar 4 mil, 72 or 90 minutes or even 96 minutes, depending on which shita of a meal you hold, and then that amount of time, and then you have Muda Shachar, and then you have Ayelas HaShachar, and then you have again another 4 mil, and then you have Hanetz Chama. How do we know the second frame of measure? That from the time of the Ayelas HaShachar until Hanetz Chama is 4 mil. The Chassid says, "Kamar Shachar Allah." The as when the sun, the morning rose, the goymer, that's what receive the shemesh oretz v'lo batzorah. And when the dawn rose, that's when Lot was driven by the Malachim out of Sodom. And it says when the sun actually rose, he found himself in Tzor. And we know that Tzor was 4 mil away from Sodom. So says the Gemara, Yosef Havan, isn't it more than that? It's more than 4 mil. So Amar Rabbi Zira, Hamalachim Makalif name Haderech. So this the Radah says if you went on top of the mountains, top of the hills, so it would be 5 mil. But as the crow flies, meaning and the Malachim tunnel directly through, it was only a 4 mil. So it says Amachim Makalif name Haderech. He would drill it. He drilled away from them to go directly through the hills, and therefore it was only 4 mil, not 5 mil. Minayin me'az Shachar Mizrach Arba mil, and how do we know that it's 4 mil from Ayelas HaShachar till Ayelas HaShachar? Kamo. It's symmetrical, just like the 4 mil from Muda Shachar till Hanetz Chama. So too 4 mil from Ayelas HaShachar till Ayelas HaShachar. Kamo Mila Medamil Chaberto. They're both the same. This matter is similar to the other one. Again, it's symmetrical. Maybe it's very boon. So what is this Ayelas HaShachar? Mandamar Kochavtahi Toya. Those who say it's a star. That's a mistake. Sometimes it comes early, sometimes it comes late. So the Mashbiach here says an interesting thing, that the place is Yontif in the first Mishnah in Berachos brings down in the name of the Radak, but some say that Ayeles Shachar is a star. So I guess that would not be like the Yerushalmi. Um, so in that case, what is it? So Maikadun. What is this? What is Ayeles Shachar? I mean, train the Kurnin Dinahor, two horns of light. The Salkin min Madincha, which shoot up from the east, Umnaharin, and they illuminate. So if I might digress here a bit for a moment, one of my heroes is Rabbi Avram Elia Kaplan. Elia Kaplan was one of the great Talmidim of Slobodka, and then became Rosh Yeshiva in Berlin, who died very young at the age of 34 in 1924. And he, among his major inspirational works, is a work Al Arichas Peirush L'Talmud Bavli Tzorchov Darko, on a work on how to on putting together new Peirush L'Talmud for the Bavli, its necessity and how to go about it. And Yaakov Kamenetsky said that had this Peirush ever been written, it would have revolutionized the way Torah is learned. So he gives several examples, and among them he has a long discussion about Ayeles Shachar and Amud Shachar, and he gives us what he would have written the Perushim a Mishnah at the beginning of our Masechta, based on this analysis. And I'm going to share it with you, what it says here, because it's a very nice synopsis, without giving his Mar Mekomis, which are in the footnotes here. Ragamli Omer Achiyalu Amud Shachar. You can say Shema until Yaleh Amud Shachar. And that's for the quote for the Mishnah, actually. So, Kavei or Harishonim, the first lines of light, Sholim Bamizrach, which rise up in the east, Besofa light at the end of the night, Nikroim Ayeles HaShachar. They're called Ayeles HaShachar. So, Amud HaShachar he equates here with Ayeles HaShachar. So, the first horns of light from the rising sun. Not a star, from the rising sun. And evidently, it's the first light you can see over the horizon, and it's perhaps called a yelet because it's like an ayol, the horns of a ram. Maybe that's where it comes from. Hochimu misrachvim, and they go and they expand lachar shah after an hour. Acheniri kamud or shekol amud shachar, until they seem like a pillar of light, and that's called amud shachar. So there's a yeles shachar, and then there's amud shachar. Vukashir shalach netzacham. That of itself is like an hour before sunrise. Some say Shamud Zen Nikrab Lashchachamim Ha'oras Pnei Mizrach. Some say that this what I call a Muda Shachar, which is not just rays of light, but a whole pillar of light, is illumination of the eastern sky. Those who say there are those who say that actually sunrise is called Heir Pnei Mizrach. And those who say the Oras Pnei Mizrach is between Amud HaShachar and Honetzachama. Amud HaShachar Kodem La. Amud HaShachar comes before the Heir Pnei Mizrach, but Netzachama Mu'uchar Mimeno, and Netzachama comes after it. V'chein Ikar, and that is the primary pshat. So this, according to again, Ayeles HaShachar evidently is these two rays of light which burst out over the horizon. And now the Gemara says Dilma, and in Yerushalmi, Dilma often means a Maisa, a story. I've wondered always whether the word Dilma that's used in Yerushalmi is related to the word dilemma, and somehow that also is some sort of scenario, means some sort of scenario. So here, this is a story. Rabbi Chia Rabbah. Rabbi Chia in the Yerushalmi is very often called Rabbi Chia the Great, Rabbi Chia Rabbah, because it's preeminent position among the Amorei, the bridge generation between Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael. So Rabbi 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 Shimon ben Chalafta have a mahachim bahada bikas Arbel. They were walking in the bikas, the valley of Arbel, Bikritsta, early in the morning. And they saw that the Yeles HaShachar had burst out. It was raised, shot out. Rabbi Chia Rabbi Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta. Rabbi Chia Rabbi said to Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta, Berebi. Berebi is always a language of covet, even in the Bible as well. Kachi Gulasim Shal Yisrael. This is how Am Yisrael will be redeemed. B'tchila kima kima. It goes very gradually. In other words, the ultimate Gula will not come in one fell swoop, but it starts slowly and builds itself up. Kol mashiolechas irabo v'olechas. And the further along we go, the closer to the greater the phenomenon, or the greater the redemption becomes in the process of geula. So my timer. So my timer again. What pasuk which teaches this? Ki yeshe b'choshech Hashem orli. I was in darkness, and then Hashem becomes a light to me. And evidently, it's choshech and or at the same time, right? And so because the or comes gradually and slowly displaces the choshech, it doesn't all of a sudden become completely light after being completely dark. So do we find this precedent? The Geula of Purim came Kimo. Mordechai was sitting at the gate of the king. And then Haman brought him the Bush and Sus, which is a next stage in Mordechai's elevation. Mordechai el Shar HaMelech. But afterwards, went back to Shar HaMelech. Then he came back and went out again, and evidently a higher madrega. So there was progression, gradual progression, even in Nesa Purim, which seems to us to be like a sudden miracle. There too, there was a progression. It went kima. V'asid Rabbi Chia Rabbi Yehuda. Now it says Rabbi Chia, but the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael changed it to Chanana, and this goes back to what we had previously. We had Chanana, and on top where it said previously it said Rabbi Chatzna, and we changed it to Rabbi Chanana. Mayelas Hashachar Ad the Schol changed Rabbi Chanana, not us. Shar Ad Shiora HaMizrach Adam Malach Arba Milim, Mishora Mizrach Ad She Tonetza Chama Arba Milim. So here, he's saying Asher Rabbi Chanana Rabbi Yehuda, Tani B'Shem Rabbi Yehuda, and we know the name Rabbi Yehuda Ovil Shorakia, the thickness of that dome in Shamayim, Mahal Chamishim Shona is the amount of time, is the thickness of how far a person could walk in 50 years. Adam Benoni Mahalech Arboim Mil Biyom. Average person could walk 40 meal a day. Ad Shachama Noseres Berakia, but until the sun drills through the dome, there's drilling through. Obviously, here is metaphoric, but it says that there are 365 windows in the dome, because each day the sun comes out through a different window, and it's something which we don't look up at in the sky, so we don't notice this. But the sun rises every day in a slightly different place in the horizon. It sets a slightly different place in the horizon. So therefore, it, I guess, drills through in a new place where it didn't come through yesterday. Through that, where elsewhere it's called a window. So Adamar Arbas Mil. So okay, that for 50 years, which would take to actually go, if you're going in Shemayim to traverse the dome, it takes 4 meal on Earth. So Nimsis Omer Shovil Shorkia, so comes out that the thickness of the dome is 1/10 of the day. In other words, 4 meal versus 40 meal. Shem Shovil Shorkia Mahal Chamishim Shana. And just like the thickness of the dome is 50 years, a 50 years journey, kach ovio shel oretz, v'ovio shel tahom, mahal chamishim shona. So too the thickness of the land and the thickness of the and thickness of the depths is 50. Also, the walk of 50 years. So presumably this is the outer mantle of the earth and the depth underneath that, which each be a mahalach of 50 years. Umatam, again, what Pasuk teaches us, Hayoshe Bachuga Haaretz, he who sits on the circle of the earth, he who goes through the circle of the heavens, home. Kodesh Baruch Hu determines the circle uh, of the depths. So chug they're all called chug. They all must have the same dimensions. I should mention before I go on that I said before that the Shinui Schos is Chananah and the Shaitai So changes it to Chananah later on, but the Pnei Moshe just changed both to Chanina, so that also works. Point is that it's the same person who about Eilsa Shachar that we were now cross-referencing down here. Tani Eitz Chaim Mahal Chamesh Mil Shana. The Eitz Chaim to go is a thickness. Eitz Chaim in Gan Eden has a thickness of 500 years. So he says, "I'm Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Loi, Lo Sof Dover Nofel." Don't think it's the foliage. Foliage is much bigger than that. El Afilu Korso, but even its trunk is 500 years in its breadth. I'm not sure its diameter, the circumference, but the trunk is 500 years. The symbolism here is similar to what you have in Babasa by Mocher Sasfina, where it says that each gal, when you have waves which come to destroy the world, each one is 300 meal, and then there's 300 parsos, so forget it's meal parsos, and then one of them is 500 parsos. So there's the 300 is a guzma and something of olam hazeh. Maharal says 400 is a guzma something which is more of olam haba. It's something where we're talking about something which is imperfect. 21. The 21st letter is shin. 300. First something which is perfect. The 400, which is tough, the totality. And 500 is transcendent, above and beyond that. Goes beyond the alphabet. Something which transcends this world and goes to some higher level. And that's obviously what the reference is here to. The Eitz Chaim is what lets us transcend this world and reach higher levels. And of course, Torah is also Eitz Chaim. Torah also allows us to do that.